Salve Skippily. This video is about the charts. We've talked about the big picture of declension and why we use it, and we've talked about the big picture of conjugation and why we use it. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's make sure you're using the correct chart for the correct task, and that if I assign you to make a chart, that you give me the correct chart. I thought you'd enjoy a little Velociraptor humor. Okay, this is a declension chart. You'll notice that the names of the cases are down the side. I'm going to try something different for this video, and instead of making a whole bunch of slides, I'm just going to have my screen for editing my slides up, and then I can highlight things for you and you can see what's going on. So see, I'm showing you the names of the cases here, and then singular and plural across the top. I do not in any way mean to insult your intelligence by showing you a declension chart. I know you know full well, but summer's been long, and sometimes we can forget things, or things can get rusty, or wires can get crossed. So let's remind ourselves that the second principal part is magic, and that you promised you were going to use the second principal part. You swore that you would never, ever, ever, ever use the first principal part to find the declension or the stem of a noun. Here is the noun auger augri masculine, which of course means field. Let's look at its anatomy. I think I really want to make auger augri masculine ridiculously big. Oh, that's much, much better. Okay, so here's your first principal part. Do you see that your first principal part has the letter E in it? Here's your E. But your second principal part does not have the letter E. The letter E is not in the second principal part. But because we get the stem from the second principal part, that means there's not going to be an E in the stem either. In a previous video, you learned that if the second principal part ends in long I, that it's a second declension noun. And this is a second declension noun because it ends in long I. Everything that's not the long I is the stem. So your stem for this noun is AGR. I put the dash at the end to prove to you that I think it's a stem, that's not a whole word. There's something missing. It's a stem. Alrighty. So I was going to click through those slides, but I'm just going to go down to this slide now. Alright, so I've set up a declension chart for this noun. Remember that the first principal part of a noun is exactly the same as the nominative singular of that noun, and the second principal part of a noun is exactly the same as the genitive singular of the noun. So we've got this started. It's going really well. Now we're going to put the stem in each box. We'll handle endings in just a minute. Stem go in each box. All right. Size of those 64. We'll make those 64 just to make it look nice. There we go. And I've got my special characters mapped down here. This is how I get this done on a Mac. All right, dative singular is an O. Accusative singular is a UM. Ablative singular is another long O. Put a long I here. We need long O for our orum. Long I for a dative. Long O for our accusative. Making a chart, making a chart. Now you get to hear me singing about making a chart. All right, there's our very pretty chart. So, as you can see, the stem, which is AGR, appears in every single form except the nominative singular. You can also see that I've used second declension endings because I saw this long I and I said that's a second declension noun. You can also see that I only used the first principal part as the nominative singular of the noun. So my chart is beautiful, it's lovely, it's perfect. Let's talk verbs. Here's why you get confused. Does this chart not look kind of similar to this chart? They both have a singular and plural column, But This chart has first, second, and third person down the side because this chart is talking about verbs. Verbs don't have cases, but they do have persons. So I've started this chart out for you. I'm going to go ahead and do a present conjugation, but when I ask you to do a conjugation, I'll tell you a tense, I'll tell you a verb, and I'll tell you a voice, whether I want active or passive. So how about if I fill that information in for you here? That'll make better sense. So porto, portare. I changed my mind. Let's do future. It'll be more exciting. Future, and let's do active, which means I'm going to have to switch that to look exactly like this. We'll need the stem in all 6 boxes. So when I assign you to do a conjugation chart, you have to be told what tense I want. There's no way that you could have just figured out that I wanted you to use the future tense unless you can see into the future. Ha ha ha. Okay, not funny. I'll give it a rest then. All right, so to get the stem of this verb, remember you promised you were going to use the second principal part, and there it is. The second principal part of this verb is portare, and Kesha says take the RE off, and now you have a stem. And put the RE back on so that you can see that that's the infinitive, the second principal part. But we can put this stem in every single box. We're going to use it all 6 places because we're making a future chart. Now we might need some information before we start putting endings on it. Because it's future, we need to use the future infix. I am going to change colors for the future infix so that you can see it really well. Here's some orange. And the future infix is BI. And I can use BI in these 4 boxes. Remember the first person singular and the third person plural, they do something a little different. The first person singular just has the letter B, and the third person plural has BU. All right, now it is time for the personal endings. These are the endings that tell you what person is doing the verb, whether that is I or you or they. I've switched to purple for the personal ending so that you can see it. The first person singular personal ending, ac, I tried to switch to purple, is a long O. The second person singular is an S. You know this. I'm just going to go ahead and fill these out real fast. Hopefully I can get it done without wasting too much of your time. Mus, tis, nt. All right, with this color coding you can clearly see what is stem, what is infix, and what is personal ending. And those chunks all each have separate meanings in the word. And here's a trick in case you didn't know. You can read it backward. Look at portabis. S means you. Be means it's future, so that means will. Porta means carry. A lot of Latin verbs you can read backwards, so you read it in the order of you will carry. Isn't that exciting? I thought it was exciting. All right, that's all I've got for you today. We are going to work synopses in class tomorrow, and I will show you how to get from a conjugation to a synopsis. But you've got to know exactly what a conjugation is to be able to make that leap, because in a synopsis, you will be using multiple tenses in one chart instead of one chart with one tense. Peace out, y'all. See you in class.